found this so infuriating because this is criminal, we know, and you can ask any big no-no for Calathea. That's one of the reasons that I tend to get like 2 plants of each. When I found these particular ones, they are, hard to find. Hello and welcome back. I have a lot of episodes coming up. It's just hard to keep the ball going. And one thing that I wanted to address, this is going to be this episode about, it's going to be again about Calatheas. I replaced my previous one because I sold the one that I had, the rattlesnake plant or lancifolia. So I got a new one and I replaced the soil. Let me tell you this, it was extremely disappointed because I'm going to show you what I found. And again, I found this so infuriating because this is criminal, even if my conspiracy theory is not right, that these green balls are like a death sentence for plants in general, as I do. But in this case, we know, and you can ask any expert or anyone that has Calatheas, that the big no-no after the piece of water, if you water them with unfiltered water or straight up water that is heavy in minerals and salts, they will crisp up, they will not do very well. But the next big no-no for Calathea is fertilizer. If you don't use a well-diluted fertilizer, and for me has been the case, that is specialized for Calatheas, that is not synthetic, because the reason why, even though that they're really real hungry plants, they're very sensitive to the type of fertilizer that you use. I have shared before one of the fertilizers that I have used for my Calatheas, and I use it in every watering, but extremely diluted. It works really well for me. But let me show you what I found on the pot that this came in, and you tell me your thoughts down in the comments, because this amount of fertilizer that you're seeing right here is just ridiculous. There is no way any Calathea can do well in any given time. This amount of fertilizer is just too much for any plant, but much more for a Calathea. It ends up being a death sentence in itself. So today what I'm going to address, I found one of my wish list plants yesterday at Home Depot, and I want to address them right away. So I have a couple of other ones that have been needed to repot. They're doing extremely well. They just need to have a better setup, and both of them are on my wish list. And let me show you what they are. So these are Calatheas Helen Kennedy right here, and they're doing just great. Now this, I did just prop it in one of my self-watering containers, and this one has been on the original pot, but this one has drainage. Let me see if I have this in the original soil or I already put in mine, because I see it that is different. It looks like this is different than that one. I'll show you in a second and we'll address that. The other one, I was shocked when I found these, because these are actually stunning. This is Calathea silver plate. So I got 2 of them as well. And if you're wondering why, my belief that each plant is different from each other. Sometimes when I do this, they just work out fine and both plants thrive. But if you look at my video on Antoro Velvet, actually an update that is on the Alocasia series for the Antoro Velvet, one is doing great, the other 2 decline really fast. That's one of the reasons that I tend to get like 2 plants of each. When I found these particular ones, they are hard to find. I want to leave one of them in a self-watering container for my shelf that I have on the stairs. They are all about Calatheas, and they are all in self-watering containers, but the other one is going to become part of a planter where I'm going to put also another one that I'm very intrigued to know why is decaying. I believe that has to do most likely with the mix that is in. It's been here in the garden with the other Calatheas that are doing just fine, and it has become really damaged, and it happened quite suddenly. And I have another update on Calatheas for you. So this is the one that I'm going to address and see what's going on here in the soil and clean it up and put it in my mix, because I don't know what this is exactly. It might be some sort of a pest. I some pests on another one that I have, and it was a caterpillar. I actually found the caterpillar in a cocoon there. The damage was already done. Now, do you remember this one? This was my old Calathea orbifolia, and if you remember, on the episode of Calatheas, I said that it has completely died down, that it was doing fine last year. And this one, I had changed the soil mix. I don't know if I just prop it in here because that might have been my fault, because I see some of those green balls that I tried to make as thorough as possible of removing. So we're going to take a look at this soil. This might be also that I have just prop it in here without changing the soil. I need to reach for those fertilizer balls that, regardless for Calatheas, even if it's real fertilizer, are not good. So let me show you what was the damage on the other Calathea from that caterpillar or worm. With this one, it happened basically in a matter of a week. I noticed that it went from being great to being like really damaged, and then the damage continued. But when I found the damage, I found one of those worms or caterpillars in the cocoon was under one of those leaves. But the damage was already done. I have treated this plant and it's right now in the midst of flowering. With this one, all I'm going to do is just clean up the leaves that are already yellow or gone and just put it back, probably give it another treatment for worms. That's one of the pests that I have here in my garden that is quite abundant, are moths. And moths tend to, lay eggs, and then those eggs becomes caterpillars and they feed on the plant. But this plant is not a goner by any means, but it does need a little bit of a cleanup and probably just another preventive treatment for this not to happen again. All right, so I'm not cutting every single leaf that is damaged or anything, because I'm not doing the cutting for the aesthetics of the plant alone. So I'll be lying to say that I don't care for the plant to look bad. But when you give the plant a good trim, it actually encourages the plants to grow new leaves and continue to grow. What I'm going to add here, because I see that it's a little wobbly, is just a little extra Calathea mix. My Calathea mix in the mixes playlist, I'll put aside to do a treatment and a water when we're done. All right, let's address the orbifolia. Yeah, because I continue to see these green balls. I may have just, because if you see, it looks like a good mix. It's very barky, it's very drainy. It has the same thing was with the lancifolia. Yeah, but this has a lot of that green crap. So regardless, you can see like even on the side of the pots. And I know that this is my pot because it's not the pot that came in. I did myself the favor thinking that this was in the right type of mix, which this is a good mix for Calatheas, but having those green balls in there is not good. For me, the most unfortunate thing in this case is the fact that you have to eliminate all this good mix because of those green balls. This one is not as loaded as the lancifolia was, but they're still here among the root system. So why do growers put fertilizer on Calatheas when they should know? I mean, if everybody knows that Calatheas are sensitive to fertilizer, then why will they add fertilizer to the mix? So I'm gonna even downsize the pot for this. On the lancifolia, there were those green balls like in here, or in the bottom, like you saw the clip, like how much fertilizer was in there or whatever that crap is. It's unreal that they do that. It's criminal, seriously, because this is a living thing. It's not just a decoration. I'm just cleaning all this dead foliage. As you've seen, like I have cut all the old stems that were already gone. I just want to make sure that like I remove, you see. I'm also gonna do what I did with the lancifolia, which is I'm gonna give it a rinse because all this is quite muddy right here in the center, and those green balls can be buried in there. So let me do that and we keep going. So actually I decided to bring you with me because I barely started the rinse and there is a lot more of that crap in the mix. So let's hopefully I'm getting this in the right angle so you can see it. See right there? You can see this right here. This tells me that this is possibly the type of pot because that's how the root system has clogged in here, or like clump all together in there, because it was probably grow in this small of a pot, and then when it was moved to the bigger pot, that's when all that crap was added. I don't see any right now. I mean, Calatheas are already like, very finicky to make them thrive. This is a complete boycott of the plant by adding all this fertilizer that the plant is sensitive to. Right, I don't see any more. Right, this is the right size spot because it will keep everything in place, and it will give the plant an opportunity to grow some new roots and be a little more root bound. Most likely I'll have to do a repot of this plant next year, early in the spring, but that is quite alright, and we'll see together how it develops. As usual, I start with a little base, and there's a fertilizer that they will do appreciate, but not too heavy. It's herbal castings. I'm gonna add a little bit of mycorrhiza, most definitely systemic, because this plant, regardless of where they are, they tend to be attacked by mealybugs more than anything, in my experience, and they find their way to these plants wherever they are. Although this one so far have been doing great, but I've been having them in a different spot over here in the kitchen. This one has been out here outside, and I don't quite remember this one having any particular pests, but it did completely decay. And I'm gonna add a little bit of my powder just to stimulate new root growth by the rooting hormone. So it was just one little ball on the top. So I think this one is ready for a repot. This one I have to rinse off because it has some of those green balls in there. But again, this container is just a little big. I want to have faith on this plant that is going to recover and do better once I move it upstairs. But for that same reason, I'm going to make a little bit of a planter, and I'm taking a risk here because I want to put those silver plates in a self-watering. This one is in a self-watering, and this one is going to be in an arrangement, because I also have the other two. I put them in arrangements already. It's a medallion and is blooming, so I'm thinking I might be put like both of them with one of the Helens in a single planter. But my issue is that when I put them in that planter, if it's not self-watering like the other ones that I did, and I'm going to show you those right now as I speak, a little update on those, how they're doing. The one in the bathroom are doing better than the ones by the window. I put the ones by the window just because those have lighter variations. So I might do something. I have the pot for it because I got this yesterday. I believe it was on sale for like 12 bucks. These are, they say they're a gallon, and it has a self-watering system in there. Now it's screwed to the bottom of it, so it has a tiny bit of a reservoir, but at the same time it has these two holes right here that will let water just sip right through. So the reservoir is this little, which is better than nothing, but I'm still thinking. Now I like the fact that there's going to be a lot of soil too, but that is also a concern. So I'm gonna use my styrofoam to create a drainage bottom and also alleviate the weight of the pot. And then we're gonna move in and put all these three plants in here. Before that, we got that one ready. Let's get this one ready. And this one is great because it doesn't have fertilizer. It has plenty of perlite. This one has the same setup, like you see here, that this is the original root system, and then it's been moved to a bigger pot. Let's move to this one. This one is also just perlite and peat moss. Has a little bit of that glue though. Listen, when it comes to like pest prevention, the best thing you can do with these plants is to get them outside or get them in the shower and soak them through. When they're ready for water, I mean, because if you can give it like a good water, let's say, if you don't have a good tap water, I will recommend you to get a sprayer pump and put rainwater, reverse osmosis, or whatever water you're going to use to water these plants. I will not say nutritious water because like that will be a waste, but whatever is the base for the for this plant, and just with a water sprayer, you can just do the same thing in the shower or outside, and give them a good rinse. Like if you can do that on the weekly basis, that will keep pests away. One little millibug right here. And that's another reason for me to like move them to my soil, because I'll add the systemic, and that will provide the plant a lot extra support when it comes to fighting pests. The only thing that I have to add to the orbifolia right now, but I left it again inside, is the diatomaceous earth, but that just goes on the top of the mix. If you wonder why I'm smacking it like that, because I explained in other videos, but when there's a good amount of perlite in the mix, when you do that, the perlite comes out first, and then what is around that perlite will crumble next. So it's easier to remove, because this one got a little more dry than the others. It has solidified the whole more as a mat. All right, so to make sure with this, while I prepare the pot and everything, I'm gonna let it soak for a bit and get this a little more softened, because this bottom part is quite compact, and I want to be able also to be in the same conditions as the other one that are fully soaked. So I'm gonna give this to a water and make sure that everything is in the right order. The other one is soaking for a little bit because it was like really dry. Now that we have got rid of all this harmful mix, let's prepare this pot for these plants. Now I have here the orbifolia already watered, so I'm gonna put it here on the side. I'm gonna start with a good amount of styrofoam chunks. You can also use packing peanuts, because that will not only add drainage just by the fact of being as chunky as this is, but it also helps to break the water table, so the bottom of the container doesn't remain packed with water. One thing is to have water in that little couple of inches here, and another thing is that it's water that is consistently touching the mass of the root ball, or where the roots are. No plants, except for aquatic plants or carnivorous plants, most of them like to be sitting in water, including Calatheas. They are so thirsty, or this one that I have right here. They're extremely sensitive to be over water or underwater. They're similar to Calatheas when it comes to water needs and whatnot. Right, so I have about that much of styrofoam. The only bad thing about this planter is like it doesn't have any kind of window, so I can see the little bit of a reservoir, but at the same time it has those holes that are poke through the top of that reservoir, so anything that is extra will filter out of those holes. So I'm gonna put a little bit of earthworm castings and then start placing and see how I want this arranged. The other root system of the Helen Kennedy is a lot more shallow, so this allows me to put a little more foundation in here, so these plants are start to get some stability, and then I can add my mycorrhizae, systemic, and a bit of my powder. Funny story that I used to relate the smell of cinnamon to lattes or coffees that was sprinkled with cinnamon, or to tres leches cake. or a pie that like I also make that is similar to like shepherd's pie, and it has cinnamon on top. But now every time I smell cinnamon, it only takes me to working in the yard, and it's a lovely smell. Remember, these plants are also prayer plants, so because they like to fold their leaves upwards, I'm trying to push this upwards, and so these they have an easier time at night to do their thing. That one is gonna get a good water in a minute. This is a little add-on because two of the videos that were part of this episode were corrupted, so I couldn't finish a couple of things. The first one on the lancifolia, I made a planter and I put a Calathea rosiopicta illustris and a Calathea rosiopicta dotty in the same planter. It's been 10 days since that original footage. So here's a little bit how the other repot is doing just fine. The other thing that I didn't finish because of those videos was to show you the orbifolia. As you can see now, this leaf has fully unfurled, so it's doing just fine. The leopardina, keep an eye on it, making sure that it's not getting infected again with the caterpillars. But that's what's missing from the footage that I have, and I wanted you to have a full wrap up of what I did. The other important thing that I want to show you was where they're growing. As you can see here, my temperature right now is 76, the humidity is 81. Again, don't fall for the humidity being so high because of the salty air, so counteracts a little bit of the humidity. Here's the leopardina, and right now because the roof is almost closed, the amount of light that it gets, this is in foot candles, is about 150. Right now is 10 o'clock, so it's early, but you will not get a lot more light. You see right here that it gets a little bit of more light, and even with the lancifolia it's being about 140, and depends there because it gets that little bit of sun, but it just moves around. But when it's not in the sun, it's just like about 100. Now this big one, I've been keeping it here in the kitchen, and you can see the variation on the temperature, and the humidity doesn't change that much, but the light is a lot lower. Instead of being in 100, is basically on the very low light range. It gets like 30. Supposedly like low light is between 50 and 250, but here it gets even like less light than that. Humidity is 81%, and here being by the window they get, and this is when they get the most amount of light at this time in the morning. This is where the variegated ones are. They get a little bit of full sunlight, which is why like some is crisping. These are all leaves. They're not necessarily like because of the sunlight, but this is because of the sunlight. But the ones in the bathroom, the humidity is a little higher at 87, and then the light is much lower. It's very, very dim at this time. They get, remember this is in foot candles, the light that they'll receive, it comes later in the afternoon. So back to the video. And now the last two for this. So I'm gonna break it down in this episode and break it into a next episode for the last two. So let me do the closing, and don't forget to watch the next episode for this too. So thank you so much for sticking around. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. I really appreciate it. And if you want to show any extra support, under David Reactions, the link is in the description, and it's also on your screen right now. Thank you again. I'll talk to you in the next one.